Hello, everybody, and welcome to Anyhow Anyway by Summer England. I'm your podcast host, Summer England, and we talk about all things cozy, bookish, smutty, chaotic, and all of that, everything in between. This week, we're talking all things writing, first drafts, and debuting because my book announcement came out, and I have my cozy fantasy debuting in April, and ever since then, I've gotten, hundreds of DMs, maybe verging on even more than that if I were to count them, which I'm definitely not going to be doing, about how do you even start when you are looking at a blank page? Excuse my language, but what the fuck? What am I supposed to do from there? So we're going to talk about it this week. But first and foremost, I need to let you know where I'm coming at this week. And that is, I just got back from a very fun adventure up in the Midwest, and I went to a Ren fair with my partner, with my lover, okay? Everybody leave me alone. Maybe, okay? Maybe I did that. Maybe I went to a Renaissance fair and it was single-handedly the happiest day of my life. Maybe it will go down as a core memory. It's going to etch itself into my soul. And if one day my brain begins to atrophy when I'm 99 years old, I'm going to be like, remember that one day I went to the Ren Fair and gnawed on turkey legs with somebody I loved, because that's what we have to live for. I always say it's the magic in the mundane. It's, what are you incorporating into your daily life that makes your life worth living? And then there's the other side of me that's like, what makes life worth living is going to a Ren Fair and sitting down and watching jousting while somebody you adore is there with you and you're making up stories together. And I sound disgusting. I sound sappy. There's a part of myself that's disappointed in me right now about how sappy it is, but also I love love, okay? I'm sorry, but this update does have something to do with you all because one, you all listen to this podcast in part because you want to know more details about my life, but two, the Renaissance Fair is such an excellent place to people watch. If you are stuck, honestly, in his genre of book, fantasy, it lends itself to fantasy. I would say it has a proclivity towards fantasy, but the personalities that are at a Renaissance Fair are so fully realized because these people have taken who knows how long to curate a full character, an ensemble, a whole look, a whole vibe. And to see those types of people occupying life is fascinating because there's people in assassin's outfit sitting down and having to eat corn on the cob. And if that is not the divulsion of human nature, I don't know what is. So if you're stuck in creativity, I would suggest just going to a Ren Fair and seeing what happens to your brain. Just sitting there and letting your brain think. You don't even have to be writing fantasy. You could be writing nonfiction. Add that to your memoir, baby. This summer I went to the Ren Fair. Okay? Consider me a consultant on your memoir. I don't know why I thought that was funny. I'm very sleep deprived right now, because I just didn't sleep that much. And then I got on the plane yesterday, and while I didn't have any flight anxiety, which is my normal, I also didn't sleep at all. So I was just in this sort of fugue state all day yesterday, and I got a lot of sleep last night, but I'm waking up feeling some type of way today. Did I sit my pretty little butt down and still write over 2,000 words for my romance novel? Absolutely I did, because one thing we're going to talk about today, you're not always going to feel good when you sit down at that writing desk. Boy, howdy. And will it inform the way you feel about your writing that day? Yeah, probably, but you got to do it. You got to do it. So let's just dive in, shall we, on all things first draft, okay? Because a lot of you who have asked me questions, you want to be a writer. And one, that's all we need, okay? Obviously, it takes skill, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to caveat everything all the time. But if you're sitting down because you have a story that you want to write, that is the special sauce, okay? There are logistics that come into that, but it is your conviction to sit down and write the story that is going to get you into the first draft. Nothing else is going to do it. No one else is going to write your book for you, okay? I am not here to hold your hand. I'm here to kick your ass so that you write your book. You know what I mean? because no one's going to do it for you, and you might as well not victimize yourself. There's always going to be a million reasons not to sit down and write. Okay? And there will be many obstacles in the way, canonically, of getting your book from point A to point B to point C to eventually point Z, and then you have to do it all over again. So you have to have our first ingredient to a first draft. You have to have a really strong conviction as to why you do it. When I taught graduate school, I taught Shakespearean pedagogy, and I told them the same thing of, at the end of the day, yes, you are teaching students skill sets that you are providing on the syllabus. You are saying, hey, at the end of this class, you will have this skill. If you show up, if you do the work, then you will have immersed yourself in literature in this type of way or what have you. But the most important thing to any teacher is why you are there in the first place. If you're going to teach Shakespeare, why do you love it? What is your why? And it's got to be the same. I think that's with everything, but I think that is especially true when you are a creative, whether you're an actor or a writer, because you are the engine that keeps everything going. And there's going to be a lot of no's and a lot of rejection. Just get ready. If you're rejection or critique sensitive, you're going to have to get over it. You really are. You're going to have to get over it, or you're just going to suck it up and deal with it and acknowledge, like, okay, I am that way and I am choosing to do this because this field is a business, and you will get rejected a lot. You will. And if you get to the point where you now have an editor and you're working with a professional editor at a traditional publishing house, and you think, okay, but my writing is the best, it's the best thing, I've done a really good job, because you should think that your writing is good, they're still going to tear it apart. They're not going to be mean about it, hopefully, but you're just going to have to get over that. And so all of that to say, I think the most important thing at any point in your writing career, obviously I'm coming at it because I am in my debut era, so I will be coming at it from that. And so take all of this with the sense that this is my experience in it, and I'm going to try to boil down the logistics that will be hopefully applicable to where you're at in your journey. This is my experience of it. But the biggest thing is going to be why you want to write the story. Because if you want to write it just because you want to be a traditional author or a trad pub author, or you want money, I can't guarantee you that that's going to be enough to keep you going or result in a good story. I think it really has to do with the conviction of, I want to share this story with the world, and this is why. And it doesn't have to necessarily be to change the world, and it might just be that you want to tell a story. But as long as that conviction is enough for you, then that's great. So before you sit thy ass in thy writing chair or couch or bed or floor or cafe table, you need to know what your why is. Now, on to the other things. Before we even get to the blank page, I would suggest, ideally, if you are setting out to write a book, you probably know what genre or around-ish what story you want to tell. So if you're writing in fantasy or cozy fantasy, I think it's a good idea to understand what those numbers are, meaning how many books are usually acquired if you want to do traditional publishing. What is the acquisitions process right now of fantasy / cozy fantasy or romance or Southern Gothic? So you have a good idea of what those genres are even doing right now. Secondly, what is the word count of the typical shelved in bookshops fantasy novels? Because I think a big, not necessarily a big pitfall, but when I talk to debut authors or people who are wanting to be authors, word count is not even considered. And I think word count is important because at least it gives you a goal. At least it gives you an idea, because one of the things that's scariest about a first draft is the endless possibility. And you can cap yourself at a word count. And, obviously there are exceptions to the rule. If you're a debut author and you're writing a fantasy novel that is tens of thousands of words over the typical word count, or you're writing in a genre that is on the lower end. So if you're writing romance or whatever, and you have, 140,000 word romance, that might not behoove you. You're definitely going to have to cut it. You just probably are, especially in this day and age. So learn what the word count is. And that is a quick Google search. And with all of the things that I'm going to share with you all today, I did find this out on my own. I did my own research. And I think that is a good thing to know, because when I first got my literary agent, I did not have to query because of the way that it went, because she found me, and we were able to connect in that way. And so I avoided the query trenches, and I also knew that I had a big deficit in my knowledge that I needed to fill in. And I did that while working 3 jobs with a kid, as going through a divorce. It was a wild time in my life, and I was still able to fit in the research. And that's not me patting myself on the back of like, I'm tough as old boots and I got over myself and I figured it out. It means that there are ample resources available. There is one in particular, and I'll put these in the show notes. It's called The Shit No One Tells You About Writing. I've recommended this podcast on this podcast and on all of my other writing platforms. And it's a really great place, especially if you are a debut author or an aspiring author or a writer who wants to learn about the industry, to walk you through what the steps look like, what are the ins and outs, because it is 2 literary agents and an author who host it. And so we get to read through people's query letters and what makes a good query letter, what even is a query letter. Don't shame yourself for not knowing stuff. Just Google it, YouTube it. There are so many resources out there. And I'm so glad that, I still keep researching, but I've spent at this point almost 2 years sort of ingratiating and immersing myself in as many writing platforms and connecting with authors and reading books and all of these different podcasts and interviews, because I think the more you know about the industry, the less mysterious it becomes. It's ever mysterious. And I'm just an author. I don't even want to know the politics of the publishing in and out. But I think it's really useful because it isn't this big grand thing anymore. You can take it and it's now digestible. So again, you got to have your conviction, and you got to know a little bit about the genre that you are writing in, so that you have a bit of an idea before you set out to paper. Because the last thing you want is to write a whole manuscript and not know anything about what that genre is doing in the publishing world, or even in the self-publishing world. Because more and more, I think self-publishing is not as much of a Wild West as it was before. Because I think in 2020, we saw a big boom of the popularizing of self-publishing. And now I think it's slowly churning its way into a more refined form or such. Obviously, anybody can self-publish. That's the nature of the beast. But if you want to be successful in self-publishing, it is important to learn what that means, what the numbers are, what is the word count, what are the genres that are popular right now. And yeah, that was an eloquent way to end that statement. And yeah, I'm an author with a big 5 publisher. So, trail off, etc., etc. You get the picture. Okay. So you're at your first draft. You know your why. You know a little bit about the word count. And now you need to figure out if you want to outline, or if you want to be a plotter or a pantser. Summer, what does that mean? Basically, it means a pantser is writing by the seat of your pants, meaning you sit down and you're like, I don't know. I know I have the essence of a story. Ideally, you probably have a kernel, or you have a character, or you have a place or a scene or something that has elicited an emotion in you that has made you go, you know what? Fork it. I'm going to sit down and write this. And the pantsers out there just write by the seat of their pants. And they're just going for it. They might not have an outline at all. They're just doing it. A plotter is somebody who outlines. You might have a really intensive outline. I know some plotters who have like a 20 or 30,000 word outline, and it really helps them because now they know the beats that they're writing to. Then you sometimes have a mixture of both people. That's where I fit in, because I have found that if I do a really detailed outline, 1, I change all of it. 2, it doesn't help me. 3, I'm really bored by it. 4, it saps all my creativity. It's just not for me. It is just not for me. Now, it is the opposite for some people. I would encourage you to figure out what is your most successful creative project and treat your first drafts as such, especially your first books. You're going to learn a lot about yourself as a creative, as a writer, especially if you are making the transition, if you've not done anything like that before, like if you're, I know I'm using this as a specific example because I just saw a story about this on TikTok. Somebody left their job in dentistry and made the transition to writing. So especially if you are not a creative and this is your first creative endeavor, then you're going to be learning a lot about yourself in the creative process. Do you need an outline? Does that help your creativity? What is this? And I would encourage you to give yourself time for your for the debuters, for the people who still have that blank Word document staring up at them. Let yourself fail. It is a gift from the universe. Let yourself figure out how you fail, how you get back up, and what that is, because the more data you have about yourself, then it doesn't necessarily change your next writing process, but it at least lets you know who is in the passenger seat with you. Now, I fall in the middle of plotters and pantsers, meaning I like to have guideposts. And one of the things that helped me the most kind of crack into my first, this is the method I used in writing The Impossible Garden of Clara Thorne, which is my debut novel. It is called the 5-sentence method by Rebecca Thorne, which is, and it says in the book, an amalgamation of different methods. But basically, what you need to do is figure out your word count. So, for example, mine is 90,000. And at the 5% mark, there is something that needs to happen. And I would encourage you to go get her book. I'm not going to boil down those points because I do think support the queen. Okay. It's a really great book. It's a really good price. And anyways, it's just 5 benchmarks with a word count. And instead of doing a whole outline, you are just providing a sentence that is detailing what happens at that point in the novel with a word count attributed to it. So I know when I go in, okay, my goal is to write a 90,000 word novel. So at the 4,500 word mark, this needs to happen. At the 20,000 word mark, this needs to happen. At 50, 75, et cetera, et cetera. Because, and we all feel it as readers, even if we don't know, there is a natural climax, beat change, beat shift that we are expecting when we are reading. Now, books can invert that. You can have really quiet literature that nothing is particularly happening, but you're definitely reading along. But at that point, the quieter the novel and the more successful it is, I think it is a great skill because the writer is extremely skilled and is able to pull at that tension without having these huge emotional shifts at this, at really set points. However, for me, that's all I needed. Is that I have these guideposts, I am writing towards a shift at these word marks so that I can still discover as I go along, because sometimes I sit down and write and I know that I want to write to the end of a scene, but I don't know what's going to happen in that scene. And it has been really successful for me in the books that I've written, including the debut, where I'm able to all of a sudden be like, oh, okay, so there's a mermaid here. Great. Because it's slowly discovering the world and slowly, growing it from the inside out. And that was helpful for me, especially in world building and fantasy building, is that I got to be able to experience the world firsthand. And because it was sort of like a fish out of water kind of book, I think that was a good experience, and that's just how I naturally write. The caveat to that is that there are some books that will teach you how to write it, meaning there might be books, if you're going to write an epic fantasy, you're probably going to need more of an outline or a story Bible, if you will, where you're going to be able to reference what you wrote before. And that is something that I ran into when I was writing the sequel, the initial idea that I had for the sequel to The Impossible Garden of Clara Thorne. And I was like, what did I write? I really wish I had an outline or something that would have helped me figure this out so I didn't have to reread the first novel to figure any of that back out and just remind myself, because I think I sat down to write that second book and thought, okay, well, it's going to go just like the first. And because I wrote the first book, I should very much be able to remember it, right? No, why? I don't even remember what I had for breakfast that morning. The amount of details that just get expunged from my brain, I either remember something in extreme high definition, every single point is correct, or I don't remember the specifics at all. I don't. So I don't know what that's about. I don't know. Probably being mentally ill. So first draft, okay? you're sitting down, it's a blank page. You got to figure out if you want to outline it or if you want to pants it, writing by the seat of your pants, or you want to go in the middle, which is what I did. That really helped me. Now, getting into the first draft, you need to decide what a first draft means to you. Do you want it to be polished? Okay, so that means going back and maybe re-editing or tweaking. Do you just want to get it out all on the page? Because my big thing that I always have to remind myself with a first draft is that I'm going to let myself be a bad writer. I'm going to lose a plot thread. I'm going to need to pick back up. I'm going to introduce a character and not have a purpose for them at first. Bad writing can become good writing, but a blank page will always be a blank page. So for me, my first drafts are sort of like, if we're thinking about it, I think about it in terms of watercolor, which might not be helpful for those who are in different mediums, but watercolor is very layered based. So the first layer looks like shit. It looks elementary. It looks embarrassing because you are just sketching out the rest of it. Then you have a second layer, then you have a third, then you have a fourth. Sometimes you have a fifth, and then you have detailed work on top of that. And the first draft is that version. It is the worst version of your story. It is. You would definitely hope, because once you get that first draft on the page, then you're going to go back and edit. And then if you have an agent, you all will go back and edit. And then you'll have beta readers and they'll have suggestions. And then if you go the traditional publishing route, or even if you self-publish and you hire a copy editor or what have you, that first draft will always be the worst version. So just accept that. That first draft is to tell yourself the story and give yourself scaffolding in order to go in and be able to detail and fix. And sometimes you're going to write yourself into something and be like, okay, I need to go back and fix that early on. Now, the big mistake that I always make is that I will write something and then think to myself, okay, if I drop these seeds earlier, then this, and this, and I'll go back and do it then, and I only have 30,000 words in the book, and then I'll write 30,000 more, and I should have waited because now I'm cutting that, and I kind of wasted time. I don't necessarily truly believe that any type of writing, whether you use it or you don't, is wasted time. But after I did that like 8 times over, by the 9th time, I was like, okay, I should learn my own lesson. I am being provided some definite notes that I'm not taking from myself right now. So I should probably try a little bit harder to just write the first draft. And what I've done in this book that I'm writing right now, which is the romance book about 2 Shakespeare professors vying for the same tenure track position, I have a little notebook next to me. And as I am writing, I will note down things to track, whether that is a prop, whether that is a little tick that the main character has that I want to flesh out that the other character notices, whether it's a whole through line, a plot line, whether it's something, I started out with this idea of what I wanted this to look like, but now that we're in it, we don't need it. So I'm just writing all that down so I can get the words out on the page, because for me, that first draft is a rough sketch. And yes, do I want it to hit 85,000, 90,000 words? And do I want it to be a really good, solid rough sketch? I do, but solid doesn't necessarily mean I'm keeping everything, but the essence of it is there. I have tapped into what I want the soul of this book to be. And I think a lot of times when I have talked to people about them getting discouraged in their first draft, it's because they don't think it's good. Well, it's not supposed to be great yet. It really isn't. There are so many other things that are going to make it great, but it's never going to be great if you don't write it. So you do have to get over yourself. You really do. Now, writing is a practice of self-awareness. It is stepping into yourself every day. And one of the biggest emotional things about a first draft is you are not always going to feel good when you're doing it. You're not. I sat down today. I am tired. I don't feel well. I'm a little sad because I'm in a long distance situation. And by a little, I mean, I'm pretty sad. I'm like happy, heartbroken. And the words I wrote today, sometimes I feel really good about them. And that just means that I was in a good mood when I wrote them. I might cut everything that I wrote in a good mood, or I might keep all of it. But I write it, and it felt very like I was just dragging it out of my bones and putting it on the page, but at least I did it. At least I did it. Even if I don't keep it, it is still, I am investing in myself, in my writing practice, in my writing routine, because the farther away I am from the writing routine, the harder it is for me to get back into it. And so I really tried to keep a steady clip, a steady pace. And if I have a few days away, then I need to ease myself back into it. I anticipate not feeling as good those first few days. And especially after being sleep deprived, that just is what it is, but I'm still going to write. I have to, because that is the choice that I've made. That is the dedication I have. And first drafts need a lot of dedication. That's kind of all you can give them, because you might not be giving them, hey, this is the best writing of all time. This story is going to change the world. But you did endow a lot of yourself into it. And I do not think that's all for naught. I do think that that spirit remains. But again, it is an intense practice of always having to meet yourself over and over again. And I'll be the first to admit that some days I really don't like myself and I don't want to hang out with her. But writing is hanging out with her, because I have to know her thoughts, her feelings, her wants, what she wants to do, what she wants to write for the day, how she's feeling about it. And that just is what it is. So get prepared for it to not feel great all the time. Sometimes writing, that first draft especially, it is kinetic, it is exciting, it is an idea, it is beautiful because you have made the choice to dedicate this time to yourself and a project that you want. And that is special and rare, and it's not something that all of us engage in. And I'm speaking at this as a divorced mom who, when I wrote my wrote my debut, I would wake up at 6 a.m. before everybody else in the house. I was so tired and depleted and depressed. And I was genuinely working 3 full-time jobs. I was a professor, I was full-time acting, and I was doing content creation and watercolors and other side jobs that all conglomerated into an additional 3rd full-time job. And I was still sitting down to write. And it was, instead of feeling guilty about it, of like, oh, I could be doing something else, I could whatever. No, I'm just not going to do that. I'm just not going to do that. The world is hard enough as it is. The world is especially hard enough as on parents, women, mothers, single moms, single dads, etc. So you might as well not add to it. It's going to be hard. And so that first draft for me, I was dedicating myself to it. I vowed that I would write it, and I was going to. And so again, I think that really goes back to the why, to the conviction of why you're sitting down in the first place, because sometimes that's all you're going to have. That is all you're going to have. And if you need to write it out and pin it somewhere so that you are reminded every day, why canst I not speak? I cannot, under any circumstances, say a sentence well. And I would say it's sleep deprivation, but I stay tripping over my own words. I think it's probably because I speak really fast, or because I can't speak sometimes. Anyway, the first draft isn't always going to feel good. It's going to feel like shit sometimes, and it's going to be the worst version of the story. So get over it. That's what it is. But you wrote it. You literally wrote it. Huzzah. Ha fucking za, okay? Does anybody say that anymore? All right. Now, I will say that part of my first draft, when I am drafting a novel, my mental health does take a steep downturn. And I'm not trying to say that to scare you. It's not like it catapults me into a deep, deep depression. But again, I'm not out here being like, I have cracked it. I love myself. I'm body neutral. I have a positive relationship with every part about myself. No, that's not the truth. And so sometimes I'm sitting down to write and it's already a bad day, and I'm going to feel bad about the stuff I'm putting on the page, and it's just going to spiral me down and down and down. And one day I might crack that, but also I've just accepted that a crash out is part of it. I'm going to crash out in the first draft. I'm going to crash out and think I shouldn't be doing this. And I let that happen. I anticipate that that's going to happen. Okay? Let yourself crash out. Look, I'm mentally unwell. I'm not about to go into a drafting process and think to myself, this is going to be perfect. You know? I'm not going to do that with anything. Okay. Well, I'm going to over romanticize stuff, but that's neither here nor there. I know that there's going to be a crash out. There might be a crash out for you. There might be a crash out. There's nothing like the eldritch cosmic horror of, okay, you got your little notebook. You're going to go to a cafe. You might even be dressed up in a cute little sexy little sweater because you're a writer now. You're going to write that. And you flip open that laptop screen and there is a blank page. And you're like, oh, I'm pointless. I'm pointless and the cosmos is chaos and they don't care about us. And what, I'm just supposed to put words on the page? Well, I've never felt more insignificant in my life. Who gave me the audacity? Girl, you're just going to have to get over that, okay? Okay, again, I'm not here to hold your hand. I'm here to kick your ass. We're adults. We're literally adults. We're just going to have to do it. Do you want to write? Sit down. Sit down and do it and get scared. It might be scary. Now, that's for me. Somebody else might be telling you really calm, yoga-like ways to draft your first novel. I would love to meet that person. But for me, it's I'm pulling my hair out. My hair is frizzing out. My mental health isn't great. People are wondering why I'm on edge. And I'm like, why are you asking why I'm on edge? Well, you know. So, in essence, the summary of a first draft, know your genre. Give yourself a firm footing in what the hell publishing even is. You should learn that. You should take the time to learn that if you want to be in this industry. And there are ample resources out there. Do not get discouraged. Start small. Start with a podcast. Start with a book and grow out from there. But don't go into it with just like, oh, I'm going to write the book and figure it out and then get completely discouraged because you don't know anything. You can know something. You can. While I'm sad we don't live in villages anymore, it is nice in situations like this where you can go into a first draft knowing exactly how this genre functions, what the word count is, what people are saying about it, what you might want to do different. You might not want to consider any of that. You should give yourself a word count, though. You really should. Now, there are very successful fantasy authors who don't, but just get prepared to cut then. And if you're a debut and you send, again, a 150,000 word document to an agent, that might get you some query rejection. So just prep yourself. If you go into it and you make an informed decision of, okay, well, fuck it, I'm still going to write 150,000 words, great. Then at least you went into it informed that you are going against typically what it would be. And at least you know, okay? Mitigate surprises. Keep the good surprises, prepare for the worst. Okay? The second big question that I have is around dialogue. How do you write witty dialogue? How do you write banter? A lot of you all, which was very sweet, were like, I'm socially awkward. I don't even know what good dialogue is supposed to be. Good dialogue boils down to, at the end of the day, what do you want out of the conversation? Just think of the conversations that you have with a cashier in the grocery store. I'm having this conversation so that I can leave. I am saying whatever I need to say to end it. Small talk is weird because half the time you're only in the conversation because you feel compelled to. And only when one of you is trying to make a quick exit does the conversation go anywhere, or it goes nowhere at all, it just ends. So you have to know if your main character is talking to somebody and they are in love with them, or they're in friendship, or they're an enemy, whatever. What do they want out of that conversation? Do they want to feel a type of way? Do they want to elicit some type of emotion from the other person? Do they just want to be near to them? No one goes into a conversation being like, I have no idea what I want from this. Well, you do. You should. You should probably know what you want. Now, you might do that in real life, but in a book you can't. So I think the key to any good piece of dialogue, any good piece of writing, any good piece of a scene, what have you, is what do the people want who are experiencing it? Because I think a lot of the wittiest banter comes from the main character, say this is a romance novel, the main character and the romantic lead are at odds with each other but want to be as close to each other as possible. And some of their needling, some of their pinpointing, some of their really biting humor is that's how I'm going to get under their skin, because technically I want to romantically crawl under their skin, but I can't. So I'm going to use these words to get under their skin because that's the only way I'm going to get close to them right now and see what happens. And I would not overthink dialogue. I would not go into it ever thinking, I want this to broadly be funny because it's going to be the least funny thing of all time. I promise you. Okay, coming from an actor who has seen a lot of people, and I'm are guilty of this too, of, I'm going to do this to be funny. Well, then it's not. You're going to need to do it because you believe so fully in the thing that you're doing, and then funniness will come from there, or romance, or tension, or what have you. So just consider what your main character wants. Make it simple. What's more than that, if you're still struggling, one thing I always suggest is to write something that you love to do. So, for example, if you are building a fantasy world, or let's take it back to the dialogue, okay? What is something that you like to talk about? Do you like to talk about knitting? Make your main character and the romantic lead or whoever they're talking to talk about knitting and just see what happens. And let your brain get into that so that it isn't as much, I need to create this other thing that's completely separate from myself because I don't know how to speak, but my main character knows how to speak. Well, then you just screwed yourself in the ass by shitting on yourself as a person and making it about this other thing because you just need to write it. and what you have in your brain, that's what people want to read. That's what makes you unique. And so if you are socially awkward in real life, then maybe make your main character socially awkward, especially if you're debuting and you struggle with dialogue and writing dialogue, then maybe your main character will struggle with it. And I think writing what you know is not a terrible thing. I know some people have weird things about it, but I love to write what I know, okay? Clara Thorne is a direct it's a copy paste. It's a copy paste from me. And I have no shame about that because I'm going to write what I know. But if you have dialogue, do you like to talk about knitting? Do you like to talk about cats? Do you like to talk about coffee? Then put them in a conversation. Even if you cut it, I think it is still useful for you to access your character that way. Or if you're building a fantasy world and you're having difficulty figuring out what it is, what the pastries and politics are, if you will, which is a way that I like to get into world building, is how what food do they eat here and what do they fight about? What's the hierarchy? Then what does a grocery store look like in your fantasy world? Even if it's in the 1500s or wherever it's set, what does a place where people go shopping look like? Make your main character walk through the aisles. What are their daily necessities or something, so that it might not be a scene that you use. It probably definitely won't, but it gives you a writing exercise that is offering you some footing within your book, which I think is important. So, all in all, those are the first kind of general big questions that people had, was debuting, first drafts, and such. Drop your other questions in the comments. I will answer them as I see fit. There are lots of them. So every week I'm going to try to hit on a subgenre of these. And again, I'm always going to be coming at this from, hey, I'm in my debut. For the last 2 years, I've been sitting on this information, and I have, I think, a pretty good idea of the steps of, you've got a query, you have an agent, then you go on or you go on submission and such if you want to traditionally publish and things like that. But everybody's process is going to be a little bit different, but I hope this has been digestible bits and pieces for you. Now we're going to move over to our children's section, and we have a very special guest today, the best guest. I'm sorry to all the other guests. There will never be a guest that I adore more than this guest. Enjoy. Hello, everybody. For our children's book section, I have an extremely special guest. I have the Kiddo, the offspring from my body. We need to get you a sound effect, don't we? Feel free to answer.
Okay. We're reading. I'm telling you about my favorite scary book and my favorite scary movie, and most scary stuff, and and the kiddos might have fun. So
kiddos might have fun. Now, you have been reading spooky stories since you were little, so I think that you don't get as scared. So if you have kiddos that are easily scared, these books might not be for you. But for the kiddos who are in for a spooky story, we've got someone. Now, the kiddo and we got someone. That's right. We've been reading. How many books do you think you've read in your lifetime, if you had to guess?
Like 200?
Probably way more than that, because we've been reading a bunch of books every night ever since you were a wee one and had a diaper on and everything. Do you remember those days, honey boy?
299.
Okay, you're really shooting for the stars. More around 5,000. 5,000 to 6,000. What do you think about that?
Maybe like 9,000.
Oh, okay. So
I think I have a good guess. Not 8,000.
Okay, 8,000 is your final answer?
Yeah.
I feel comfortable locking and loading that, depending, because we read, a bunch of books a day. Yeah. All that being said, we love children's literature in this house. And so, who better to talk about children's literature than a child himself? And today, you have brought your favorite Halloween book, which is M is for Monster by Patrick Lewis. It is a book we got at our local indie bookshop. Shop local, and it's basically an ABC story wherein every page we've got an A monster and a B monster. We have Baba Yaga, all of that, but it has a tidbit of history and historical fiction and really fun illustrations. And Kiddo, would you like to tell us more about this book and why it's your favorite?
Yeah, so I really like the vampire one, and it's like M for monsters, and there's like a picture on the front that's like whatever. It doesn't look like much like a vampire. It looks like a goblin.
Okay, what differentiates a vampire and a goblin to you?
A goblin has weird ears.
A goblin has weird ears?
Like straight up ears.
Straight up.
Okay, let's get to the other part.
No, I want to hear more about the book. Hello, it's children's literature.
The book has lots of monsters, like M for that, and like B for that. It's really cool. Yeah. And it's like a little bit of a rhyming book.
That's true. It is a rhyming book. I forgot about that. Rhyming books are so good. I feel like you usually tend to like a rhyming book over a narrative book.
Oh yeah, sure.
Do you like it because it's like a song? Is it easier to remember, or is it just is nice? Care to answer?
It's nice.
Oh my goodness. Okay, now you're here to talk about another movie, which is, we found this last year on Disney Plus. It is called The Scariest Story Ever, a Mickey Mouse Halloween special. Now, I will say that I am easily scared. Anyone who knows me in my real life knows that I really love reading about horror stories. I don't like watching them. And this cartoon, honestly, the last story is particularly terrifying. I will say that. That's a fair warning to parents out there.
I think most people will scare their minds out of them.
Scare their minds? Scared witless, would you say?
Yeah.
Yes.
Whatever.
So why is this your favorite?
Good question. The scary stories are cool, but except for the end one.
Why? Tell us about the end one. So this is spoilers ahead, so you can just brace yourself. Okay. Tell us about that end one. Okay. Tell us about that end one.
So the end one is like this old lady, and she turns into a really scary witch, and she bakes all the friends into a pie.
All the little ducks into a pie. It is pretty tough, if you ask me.
Don't want to be mean about it, but it's just that's just what happened.
Mm-hmm. Some stories sound mean by nature of telling them, even though they are fact. Now, what makes this one of your favorites?
The first story is funny, and like there's a vampire one, and then they fight the vampire.
You love a vampire. Do you feel like this vampire looks more like a vampire than the vampire in the M is for Monsters does?
No.
They both look like goblins?
No. But the vampire is like tall.
The vampire is tall. Do you think vampires need to be short? What does the height have to do with it?
So we can kill the vampire easily.
Oh, so vampires need to be short so you can
fight it?
Fight it? That's quite a convenient loophole that you've created for yourself there, mister. I don't know if you can do that with all creatures. You know. So, anyhow.
If I was a mini person that fighted a vampire, I would just yell.
You would yell?
Yeah, and just yell.
I don't think canonically that is how you fight a vampire. You're not using holy water or garlic or a crucifix or the sunlight.
Garlic. Oh, I mean.
Yeah, that's how you say it. That's how you say it. Yeah.
I mean, like,
nope.
garlic.
Commit to it. You can't let it go. Garlic. Yeah. This avid reader over here, 8,000 books and can't say garlic. You're so not Italian. So these books, what I'm learning right now is that these books have taught you nothing. We've read so many spooky books, and you don't know how to defeat a vampire? A vampire? You don't know how. You're going to yell at it? What is wrong with you?
I thought a little kid I would do that.
If you were a little kid, what do you think you are right now?
A big boy.
I don't think you're allowed to say that when I still have to look down to talk to you.
I'm not short.
Well, you're not tall.
Of course I am.
Are there any other books that you want to shout out while you're here?
There's this other book that's called Fred McPhee. And there's a skeleton. And it talks all about the skeleton. Look at that. If I was a young kid, I would read that book. It's not much scary.
I am going to push back on that. I would say that this book is a little bit scary. About bones rattling in the sycamore tree. Come on. It's spooky cozy. It is called The Bones of Fred McPhee by Eve Bunting, and we found it in our local library, and we have checked it out. We found it last year. I think we've checked it out 9 times. Wow. Did you know that? Yeah. We bring it back, and then as soon as we see it again, we check it out. So we really know that. And that's another one of those that's rhyming. You love that. Is there anything you would like the listener to know and keep in mind for spooky season and picking out Halloween books for their kiddos and such?
I do want to talk. I like talking in the mic.
Okay. What are you going to talk about?
More spooky stuff.
All right. Well, then.
What? It's almost fall.
What? It's almost fall. Would you like to talk about September 1st?
September 1st?
Our sacred day.
Oh, it's Halloween day for me and my mama.
It is a Halloween day for you and me. Of course. What are we going to do that day?
Decorate for Halloween.
We sure are, which goes into the whole theme of this podcast. You got to weave some cozy into your life, some whimsy, some things that make life worth living. And for us, that is decorating our whole house for Halloween on September 1st.
Yeah.
And this is the first time we've owned a house, so now we can like paint pumpkins on the wall if we want to. All right. The children's literature section is about to wrap up. So, do you have any final words for people for this Halloween season and the books and things that you mentioned today? A reminder is that we mentioned M is for Monster, and then the Mickey's Scariest Story Ever Mickey Mouse Halloween special. Anything else?
I feel like talking about the spooky season of Halloween.
Do you feel like you did that successfully?
No.
Oh.
So, I like when we trick or treat, and sometimes they give you lots of candy, and you get to have lots of fun.
Yeah.
You actually do. You actually do.
Yeah, it's very fun.
It's very fun.
Yeah.
Too fun.
Okay.
Too fun.
Oh.
I love tweeting.
All right, that'll be all from the kiddo and I.
I love tweeting.
Okay.
Tweeting.
Now back to the rest of the podcast episode.
Woohoo!
I hope you enjoyed that enjoyable segment, and if you didn't, don't tell me, because then that would mean that you don't adore the most perfect human ever to exist in the world. Thank you very much. What I'm reading, listening, and writing, I am reading right now One Yellow Eye by Leigh Radford, which is a book about kind of like a new take on zombie stuff. It's like what happens after the zombie apocalypse, but somebody's harboring still a zombie, and it's about love and grief. I'm very excited for it. And then the next book is Wayward by Amelia Hart, and this is sort of historical fiction mixed with supernatural elements. I think it is nicknamed witcherature, like witch in literature. I know that there's a witcherature. That just sounds like Worcestershire sauce. I can't say either. You get it. Witch in literature, okay? And I believe Wayward is an ode to the Weird sisters from the Scottish play, for any of you weirdos out there that are superstitious. Okay. Those 2 books I'm reading right now, they're very fall. I'll let you know how they go. I'm still reading The Strawberry Patch Pancake House, and I will be because I only manage a few pages at night, because once that my head hits the pillow at 9 p.m., ooh, honk shoe, you know what I'm saying? What I'm listening to a playlist entitled Bringing Out My Inner Kathleen Kelly from You've Got Mail. And somebody has compiled like every single song that's played in When Harry Met Sally, You've Got Mail, and oh my gosh, Sleepless in Seattle. It's great. It's a vibe. I love it. I'm also listening to an instrumental piece called Mother's Love by the Vernon Spring. It is so beautiful, relaxing. This does go towards writing. Find writing tunes. Some of you like to write in silence, you little freaks. I love to have a playlist going. Not words. It is a lot of instrumental music. Mother's Love calms my brain. I can't explain to you. The other song is Dead Sea by the Lumineers. It's just an inspiring song. I'm usually not a Lumineers girl, but that one, it's just, I don't know. It's getting me. It's getting me. What I'm writing, I am 46,536 words into my romance novel about 2 Shakespeare professors vying for the same tenure track position. I'm very excited. Again, today, I sat down and I was like, oof. I'm blocked today, but we kept writing. And I'm also now in the outlining of book 2, which is my sequel to The Impossible Garden of Clara Thorne, because I wrote that sequel in December. I got like 75 or 80,000 words. And then a bunch of stuff changed in book 1 after I went through edits, which I got back this summer. So I'm hitting the drawing board again. I also need to read that manuscript. Guys, I'm going to be totally honest with you. I have such a deep complex about book 2 because sophomore slumps, I have a superstition about sophomore slumps, meaning like you have the opening night, then you have that second show, and that second show always feels weird if you're an actor. I've always felt that way, always, and I get really superstitious if I have a very good preview, because then I'm going to be like, oh God, then is opening night going to bomb? So I just have a complex about that. I just need to get over it. I need to get over it, but I'm being honest with you all right now. Okay, I'm being so honest. So that's what we're doing. Okay? I hope you all have a lovely time. I will drop my pre-order link to my book in the show notes, and also the link to The Shit No One Tells You About Writing and Rebecca Thorne's The 5-Sentence Method for any of you debut people who would like, who are like, you know what, I do find myself in the middle. I'm a pantser and I'm also a plotter. So anyhow, I hope you have a wonderful day. I hope your weather is as autumnal-like as mine. Go to a Ren Fair to people watch. Stay cozy, stay bookish, stay chaotic. Bye.